instead of subtyping Inspire feature types, we realize them. It's the same feature types, but it's a very loose binding. We do not inherit anything, right? So we have to look into what is part of supplementary regulation, what properties is it here, what association is it, what constraint is it, and then we have to look through each of our national feature type to consider which of them that we should bring forward. And of course, what is mandatory Inspire has to be mandatory in our specification as well. So the first and maybe the biggest challenge should not be underestimated is actually the translation of the data specification. That is not an easy task actually, to really understand the Inspire data specification. That's not something you read before you sleep in the night, for example. You really need to study this. So you really need a domain expert. And domain expert who is interested in understanding what the Inspire data specification is. So I mentioned we have a copy of our Inspire data specification in our repository. And since it is a copy, we can edit it, not changing anything, but we were adding information in the, what is it called, the alien field? Yeah, it is a field in Enterprise Architect where you can put in an alternative name, alternative,
Alias.
Sorry?
Alias, yes.
Thank you. So that's what we have done here in Inspire. We have the Norwegian name, identification, we have the Inspire ID, which is the original Inspire name. And this is what we have done through the whole model. So we have really translated it. Translated all the feature types, all the association roles, all the constraints. And the next step is to look into each of these, which are mandatory. What is mandatory we will find here. What is voidable that we can derive from existing attributes. I mean, if it is available, then it should be mandatory, right? So what we can derive from existing attributes has been implemented here, and it's actually modeled as derived, that is the slash in front of the attribute name. So the result of this, all mandatory attributes are implemented, optional attributes considered and implemented if relevant or appropriate. Voidable, implemented if they can be derived or made available in other ways. Yeah. And we also see that some of the attributes are not implemented. For example, begin lifespan version, end lifespan version. This is a concept that we do not use for planned land use, and we will not bring this into the Norwegian data specification. Another example is dimensioning indication, which is not relevant according to our data.
But those are mandatory attributes within lifespan version. Is it not?
This one?
Yeah, the first one.
It's voidable. Begin lifespan version and lifespan version. We don't have them. We have no intention of making them.
Yeah.
Not for planned land use. So the conclusion is that the realization pattern is the most appropriate for time being for the planned land use in our specification. That's not the full story. We have to go to implementation. We have 426 municipalities in Norway. They are all responsible for their own planned land use. And there is no way that these 426 municipalities can set up the necessary Inspire services and transformation from the national specification to Inspire. I don't know how that works for other countries, but we need to do this in a slightly different way. So we are working on a central repository for all planned land use. We have a Norwegian standard geosynchronization. It looks quite much like what OGC is doing on geosynchronization. We should have cooperated with them, definitely, but by different reasons we didn't do that. But it is based on GML as the carrier here. It's based upon the feature service WFST, and we have a test bed in place. So we are actually doing this for an old version of the data specification for planned land use. And we are synchronizing from the municipalities into a central repository. And the next step is something we have not done yet. This is just an example of an architecture where we will have a similar geosynchronization to a distribution database, but it's also a transformation. So here we will use all the derived attributes. It is derived from attributes in the central repository. We'll set up a transformation. We will then be able to deliver or make available the data according to the planned land use XSD file. But that's not the only one. That is one of the products. We will have different kind of plans derived from this feature catalog. We will have one for municipality plans, one from regulation plans, etc. And there is 2 or 3 more in addition. And they will have their own XSD files, I mean GML schemas. So there will not be one GML schema that will cover everything, including Inspire. Okay, I mentioned model validation. And this script which has been provided in Enterprise Architect can only be run when you have normative references to the updated version. So you cannot run this on Inspire. And when we do that, we are actually basing this work on earlier versions, right? Which is modeled according to earlier versions. So we have to do quite a lot of updating. And when I ran this the last time, I found 885 errors. Then I did not run all the warnings. And a lot of this goes to missing definition. For example, if attributes do not have a definition, you will get an error. If an association role has no definition, you will get an error. So these rules are quite strict, actually. And it is a reason to this. I mean, up to now we have not derived that many artifacts from these models. We are focusing on GML. And GML doesn't really care if you have a definition on the attributes or not. But if you should derive other artifacts, RDF for example, then you have to have much richer models. So that is actually the aim, that we should have models of such a quality that we could derive different artifacts, even if you are focusing on UML for the time being. Summary and conclusions. I started to say it was a kind of mission impossible. That was not really true. It did fit actually quite well. But we need a generalized level for Inspire that is required, and it has been stated to be an extra burden. I mean, it's not something that users in Norway request, but is part of the directive. So that's why it's often called a burden. We have stronger semantics in our models than Inspire. That's quite natural. I mean, the Inspire must open up to be able to cope with similar data from all European countries. And we did not see any, or among our users there were no interest to weaken the semantics in the model to fulfill inspired extensions by subtyping. So, for time being we are using the realization relationship. We have all the mapping of the concepts are part of the definition. We consider to move this to a matching table. One of those who was derived in the SDN project. Yeah, we should definitely look more into redefine. I'm not sure if we will have resources to do that. And we will continue to examine results from this GRC Geonovum extension pattern project. And of course, according to the result from this workshop, to get information from you and what works and what does not work. And the last comment is that I think that in many use cases, the inspire, informative, extensive rules are too strict. That will end my presentation.